We begin today the Gemara on Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis, 4 lines from the bottom of the Amud, where it says Ta Shema. So the Gemara over here, there was a shaila the Gemara asked regarding the halacha of tzreitis. That's what this whole discussion over here is. So the last shaila the Gemara brought from Rava was whether there is hada'ah for tzreitis or there's no hada'ah for tzreitis. What does hada'ah mean? When a person is warned 3 times, the animal damaged 3 times, so by keren, the first 3 times you pay chatzin nezek, but after being warned 3 times, you pay nezek shalim. The question is whether that applies to tzreitis or not. By tzreitis, you pay chatzin nezek. That's the halacha according to the Rabbanon. But the question is, if it was warned, if it happened 3 times, do you say that by tzreitis it's similar to keren, that after 3 times you'll pay nezek shalim, or no? Tzreitis is always chatzin nezek, even after 3 times. So the Gemara brings the Braisa as a right to this. Tashema, the Braisa says, Tani Rami Bar Yecheskel. Rami Bar Yecheskel taught as follows: Tarnagol shahishit roishay la'avik lischuchis. A chicken that put its head into the ear space of a glass vessel. V'toka boy, and it shrieked inside of it. And what happened? V'shavroi, the sound, the pressure of the sound broke the vessel. Mishalim nezek shalim. You pay full damage for this. Rav Yosef, Amri Bei Rav, but Rav Yosef said regarding a similar case that Rav taught differently. Sus shetzonaf, a horse that neighs, and chamoyer shenoar, or a donkey that brays. Okay, all these sounds are from these animals. V'shibir esakelim, and also through the sound it broke vessels. So Rav said Mashalim chatzin ezek, that you only pay half pay. Now, these cases over here of these animals or the chicken that causes to break something by the sound that it lets out and the pressure of the airwaves that it causes, this is an example of tzreitis. Just like when the animal kicks a pebble, so it's not the animal itself that's damaging, it's the pebble that's causing the damage. In these cases as well, it's not the body of the animal that's causing the damage, but it's the pressure of the ear that it causes the damage. So this is a case of tzreitis. So why did Rav Yosef say that Rav said that you pay chatzin nezek? But Rami Bar Yecheskel said that you do pay nezek shalim, full pay. What's the difference here? So the Gemara wants to say, my love, don't you think their argument is kagayin the avet lasazimne, that we're talking about a case where the chicken or these animals have done this 3 times already. So you were warned already 3 times. And the arguing about this shaila that Rav asked, Mar Sovar Yeshado. So Rabbi Bar Yecheskel says, once it did it 3 times, so you were warned, so now you will pay nezek shalim for tzreitis. What Umar Sava, Rav is saying, Einado, even after you were warned 3 times, you still pay chatzi nezek. That is what the argument is about. Says the Gemara loy, this is not the explanation of the argument, rather, b'chad zimne, it all happened in 1 time. It's the first time this happened. But ubeplukte, the sumches, v'rabanan kamiflagi. The argument, if you pay half or full pay, is the same argument brought before regarding tzreitis in general, whether you pay, sumches says, for every tzreitis you pay full pay, and Rabbanan say you pay nezek shalim, chatzi nezek, that is. Frag the Gemara, but how can we say that this case is a typical case of tzreitis, where the animal just is walking and along its way it kicks pebbles? It's a different case over here. Why? Because v'ha mishunuhu. This seems to be something which is very unusual for the animal to do, or regarding the chicken. The chicken that sticks its head inside a glass keli, and over there it shrieks. Well, this is something which is mishunah. So it's not a regular case of tzreitis. And says the Gemara, there is bei bizrani. The case over here is that there are seeds inside this glass keli, and the chicken sticks its head inside to get the seeds. So therefore it is the regular case of tzreitis, and that is the machlokes over here, whether we hold like sumches or like the Rabbanon. There are actually the Rashba over here says, according to the answer of the Gemara in the end, Isbei Bizrani, that the difference between what Rami Bar Yecheskel said and what Rav said is, Rami Bar Yecheskel was talking about a case where the chicken stuck its head inside the keli to get seeds, and as it stuck its head inside, it shrieked and it burst the keli. He says that's not called tzreitis, because it stuck its head inside the keli. That's a direct damage of the body of the chicken, and that's why he said you will chayav nezek shalim. But the other case that Rav said, sus shanav chamer shanar, it doesn't say it stuck its head inside the keli. It let out this sound which the wave of the pressure caused the keli to fall and break. Over there, that is tzreitis, it's indirect. So then, according to the at least according to the Rashba, according to the Maskan of the Gemara, they're not arguing the machlokes of sumchis and the Rabbanon. It's 2 different cases. By the chicken, it's not tzreitis, and by the case of the sus and the chamoyer, it is tzreitis.
So how many chickens is it?
Huh?
But chickens can obviously it's not tzreiris.
It's in the
like
right. And a chanami. One of the Gemara though thought that still it's the sound that comes out of the chicken. The chicken didn't like mamish break it, it's only through the sound. Okay, but this is the Rashba's shot in the Gemara. Vay Ravashi, another shaila. Ravashi asks regarding the halacha of tzreiris. Yesh shinui l'tzreiris. Do we say that regarding tzreiris there is a halacha of shinui, just like there's the halacha regarding the damages of an ox, that if it damages with shem v'regel, so you pay nezek shalim. But if it damages with its horns, and it's something which is unusual, so over there you pay half, do you say that the same applies to tzreiris? Tzreiris, the pay always is half a pay. That's the halacha l'moshim sina, according to the Rabbanan. But now, do you say that if the tzreiris happened in an unusual manner, if the animal got wild and it started kicking and pebbles came up and flew away and damaged something, so do I say that now it would pay only l'revia nezek? You pay half of the half a pay, which is only a quarter of the pay. Or this concept of shinui, that if you change from the usual, the animal's behavior was wild, that does not apply by tzreiris, that you cut down the payment to half, l'revia nezek to pay a quarter. No, tzreiris always pays half, and it doesn't change whether it came from the normal way of the animal walking or it happened in a wild way. It's always the same pay of half. Says the Gemara, Tifshut leima de Rava. Can't we resolve this shaila of Ravashi based on the shaila that Rava had, that we brought just now before here? Because the boy Rava had the shaila, yesh hadal tzreiris. Do you say by tzreiris that there's a warning, and after the warning 3 times, so you pay full pay, or ein hadal tzreiris? Or there's no hadal for tzreiris and you don't pay full pay? So what do you see from this shaila of Rava? Miklal, from here you see the ein shinui, that there's no halacha of shinui. You can't say by tzreiris that in the beginning you pay a quarter, and then afterwards, if that is if it was done in an unusual manner, so you would pay only a quarter, and then if it would happen 3 times, you pay half. In other words, these two ibayas don't go together. Ravashi was asking, do you say that you pay a quarter if it happens in a way of a shinui, and then if it would happen 3 times, that would mean that you pay half? But Rava said different. When Rava asked the shaila of yesh hadol tzreiris or ein hadol tzreiris, so Rava, according to one pshat in Rashi and Tosfos, Rava was asking the shaila regarding the same case, when tzreiris, when the animal kicked the pebbles, also in an unusual manner. And Rava was saying that the first time you pay half, but then after 3 times you pay nezek shalim. So that doesn't fit with what Ravashi is saying, that you pay a quarter when it happens in an unusual manner, and then when it happens 3 times you should pay half. So how do these two ibayas go together? So from the very fact that Rava was saying that you pay half and then you pay nezek shalim, that shows that there's no tzad to say that you pay a quarter and then you pay half if it happens 3 times. Okay, as I mentioned, this is one pshat of Rashi and Tosfos, but there is another pshat over here that the ibaya of Rava, whether yesh hadol tzreiris or ein hadol tzreiris, is not talking about a case where the animal is doing this in an unusual manner. This is a shaila regarding warning by tzreiris when the animal is doing it in a normal manner. But still, the Gemara is saying that these two ibayas don't go together. It's not so simple to understand this, because Rav Ashi is talking about in a case where there's a shinui for tzreiris, where it's an unusual manner. And Rava is asking a shaila in general regarding tzreiris, where it's done in a usual manner. Okay, so it's not clear over here the connection of these two ibayas according to this pshat. But the Rishonim over here say that nevertheless the Gemara holds that there is still a connection, because the shaila of Rava of yesh hadol tzreiris or ein hadol tzreiris is based on a general concept that maybe tzreiris, every tzreiris, what Rava is basically saying is that maybe every tzreiris is a kind of damage which is considered to be a shinui, because it's not the animal damaging directly with its feet, it's damaging by kicking a pebble and then that pebble going and breaking a vessel. So every single tzreiris is something which is unusual, and therefore it's similar to keren, where there's a halacha of that you pay afterwards nezek shalim after 3 times. So if so, these two ibayas don't go together. How could Rav Ashi say that maybe we could say that in tzreiris you could divide if it happens in a usual manner or an unusual manner? If Rava is saying that for every single tzreiris is considered to be to some degree unusual, and therefore you only pay chatzi nezek, and therefore Rava wanted to say that by every tzreiris there's a concept of hadad, you get warned after 3 times and you pay nezek shalim. As it may, these two ibayas don't exactly go together. But the Gemara says it's true, it doesn't go together, but we could say that the shaila of Rav Ashi over here is Dilme Rava im Timtzeloi Mekamar. or rather the Shaila of Rava, that is. The Shaila of Rava was Imtim Tzaloimo. Imtim Tzaloimo means if you would take one of the tzdadim, one side of the Ibaya of Rav Ashi, you'll have the Ibaya of Rava. And that is as follows. Imtim Tzaloimo. If you're going to take the side that Rav Ashi said, that Ein Shinoi, that when it comes to Tzreides, there is no concept of Shinoi, that you would pay a quarter, you always pay a half, then you can further go ahead and ask whether Yesh Hada or Ein Hada. If it happens 3 times, would you not pay Nezek Shalem, or do you not pay Nezek Shalem? So in the tzad, that by tzreitis, if there's a shinu, you pay a quarter, there would be no tzad to say that after 3 times you pay nezek shalem. But if we're going to take the tzad, that when it happens the first 3 times, so then you pay half, then would be the ibaya of Rava, whether after 3 times you pay full. So Teiku, the Gemara does not resolve this ibaya over here of Rava, and not the ibaya of Rav Ashi either. Another boy Ravashi asked, boy Ravashi koyach koychay. When the animal it will be kicking a pebble, that's one koyach, that by force it kicked a pebble, and then that pebble itself did not break yet, but then that pebble went into one vessel, and then that vessel fell onto a second vessel, and only the second vessel broke. So that's koyach koychay. It's a one force that caused another force that caused the damage. So the question is, what's the halacha according to Sumchis? So again, Sumchis is the one that has the opinion that for tzreiris you pay nezek shalim, which means that if it's the pebble itself that damaged, you'd still pay nezek shalim. But the question is whether it's a second force, a keli that was forced by the pebble that came to it, and then it broke a second keli. What would be the halacha in this case according to Sumchis? So do I say that it has the same halacha like the pebble itself that damaged? And Sumcha says there it's nezek shalim. So when it's a secondary koyach, it's also the same halacha of nezek shalim. Or no, if it's a secondary force over here, Sumchas would agree that you pay chatzi nezek. What's the basis of this shaila here? Mi gomer halacha. Do I say that Sumchas really agrees that there is this halacha l'Moshe Misinai that we learn out that tzreiris is different, but the only argument he has on the Rabbanan is, but umaykila b'koyach koychay. His argument on the Rabbanan is, the Rabbanan say the halacha l'Moshe Misinai of tzreiris is that as long as it's not the barei of the animal, it's just the tzreiris, it's the pebble, so you pay half. Sumcha says, no, you apply that halacha l'Moshe Misinai when it's a secondary force, you pay chatzi nezek. Or perhaps loy gomer halacha klal. Sumchis does not hold of the halacha l'Moshe Misinai at all, and therefore the koyach and koyach koychay, it's all the same halacha. You always pay nezek shalim according to Sumchis. So this shaila as well, the Gemara says, Teiku, the Gemara does not resolve this. Point is though, it's an interesting thing, because you see over here from the Gemara, and you could understand this according to the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan do hold of the halacha l'Moshe Misinai. You see from the Gemara that koychay and koyach koychay would be considered to be the same thing. There's really no difference between them. The only shaila the Gemara has is, maybe according to Sumchis, we would say that the special halacha l'Moshe Misinai was only said regarding koyach koychay and not regarding koychay. But according to the Rabbanan that hold it is halacha l'Moshe Misinai regarding tzreiris, which is the first force, the first koyach, then koyach koycha will be the same thing as koycha, and you would be chayav the same chatzi nezek.
Maybe only according to Sumchis is the shayla.
Because according to Sumchis, we don't know where the halacha l'Moshe Misinai was said. According to the Rabbanan, we know where the halacha l'Moshe Misinai was said. The halacha l'Moshe Misinai was said, yeah, but it's saying, okay, but it's saying that koycha is not like gufay. But you see here in the Gemara that be'etzem the svara is that koychay and koyach koychay is the same thing. If not for the fact that there's a halacha l'Moshe Misinai to distinguish between koychay and koyach koychay, be'etzem they're both the same thing. So according to the Rabbanan, this is what the Rishayim here say. According to the Rabbanan, koychay and koyach koychay remains the same thing. Okay, now going back to the language of the Mishnah in the beginning of the Perek here. So the Mishnah there said, Hoysam v'etes, if an animal was wild and it was kicking, or it was walking and then pebbles flew out from under its feet, Vishavras a kalim and it broke kalim, Mishalim chatzi nezek, so you pay only half a pay for this. So the Gemara wants to know what's the right way to read this Mishnah. Ibaya Lahu, the Shaila was asked, Heichi Kama, what's the right reading for this Mishnah? Do you say as follows? That Hoysam v'etes v'hizika b'biyuta. The first case the Mishnah is saying is that it was kicking and it damaged with its kicking, which is a wild way of damaging. That's a tailed of keren. And then the second case the Mishnah is saying is oy tzreirais, or when it kicked pebbles, but over here it was karchayu. It was just as the animal is walking, it wasn't wild. So in both of these cases, mishalim chatzi nezek, you pay chatzi nezek, v'rabbanani. And then this Mishnah is the opinion of the Rabbanan, which is saying that for tzreirais you pay chatzi nezek. That's the halacha l'Moshe Misinai. Or perhaps the way to read the Mishnah is the first case of the Mishnah is there was kicking and it directly damaged with its kicking. That's a Teil Dov Keren. And then the second case is also a Teil Dov Keren because machmas biut. Or also when it kicked pebbles, it didn't just walk ordinarily and kick pebbles. It was wild and it kicked pebbles. And therefore, in both of these cases, Mishalem Chatzin Nezek, you only pay half. But then, if this is the way you read the Mishnah, so you can understand that ki orche, but if it would kick pebbles in its ordinary way of walking, Mishalem Nezek Shalim, then you would have to pay full pay for tzreitis, for kicking pebbles, umani. So then who would our Mishnah go according to? Sumchasi. Follow Sumchas that says that even for tzreitis, you still pay Nezek Shalim. Says the Gemara Tasha Mami Seif, I could prove this to you from what it says in the next case of the Mishnah. The Mishnah there says, Dorsa ala keli. An animal stepped on the keli itself, v'shavrasai, and it broke that vessel. And then v'nafal hashever al keli acher. A piece of this broken keli flew out and broke a second keli. And v'shavre broke that second keli. So what does the Mishnah say? Al arishay mishal nezek shalim. For the first keli you pay full pay. For the acher and the second chatzi nezek you only pay half. Now, the Sumchis, if our Mishnah is following Sumchis' opinion that says that for tzreitis as well, for a secondary force of a damage, you also pay that is full pay. Why for the second keli are you paying only half? So we clearly see that this Mishnah here is saying the concept of tzreitis according to the Rabbanan that you pay only chatzi nezek. But the Gemara argues back, but maybe you could say as follows. If maybe you could explain over here this case of the damage of these two kelim, maybe the case is as follows. That Rishain, when it says that the animal damaged the first keli, what did it mean? Rishain lahataza. Even the first keli that was damaged, it's not by the animal directly trampling on that keli, but it's by a pebble that flew onto that first keli and broke it. And Visheni, the second keli, is a sheni lahataza. And then the second keli is that a piece of this first keli flew onto the second keli. And therefore, what would be the point over here? The first keli is koichai, that's the first pebble that broke it, and the second one is, like we said before, koyach koichai, that's already a secondary force. And then we'll say that this could fit with sumchis, because v'shani le'le sumchis, maybe according to sumchis, there is a distinction ben koichai le'koyach koichai. Maybe that's what the Mishnah is saying, that the first force of a pebble, you pay full pay, and the second force, koyach koichai, you pay chatzi nezek. So maybe this Mishnah is according to sumchis. But the Gemara says, if that's the case, then going back to the Iboya that Rav Ashi asked, this was the Iboya of Rav Ashi according to Sumchis. So Ela, the Iboya Rav Ashi, so Rav Ashi asked the Iboya, Koyach Koyach Sumchis, the secondary force according to Sumchis, Koyach Dami, is it like the first force of the pebble that went? Oilav, or maybe not. Or it's not like the first force. But now, if you're saying that our Mishnah is like Sumchis, Tiv Shit Lei, so you have clearly here in our Mishnah that the Mishnah makes a distinction. The Lav K'Koichedami, the secondary force, you pay only half, not like the first force that you pay Nezek Shalim. So the Gemara says, you're right, according to Rav Ashi, we must say that our Mishnah is like the Rabbanan. Rav Ashi K'Rabbanan Maikilo. Rav Ashi says that our Mishnah follows according to the Rabbanon, and therefore, when the Mishnah says that, going back to the case before, Hoysam Va'etes, and then it says Oishahoyu Tzroiris Menatzim Mitachas Ragleo. So over there, this is all, the whole entire Mishnah here is all according to the Rabbanon. So now, what is the Iboya of Rav Ashi? Okay, so again, K'Rabbanan Maikilo. The Mishnah is according to the Rabbanon. But Uboya Lahachi, Rav Ashi has a shaila as follows. Now here, the Gemara is going to bring back the basis of Rav Ashi's previous shaila. So if you remember, the first shaila over here of Rav Ashi on the Amud was, is there a concept of shinui for tzreitis? When an animal kicks pebbles in an unusual manner and then the pebble damages, will I say that it only pays a quarter pay? Do I say that it goes down half of half? So therefore, Boya Lahachi, his Iboya in our Mishnah is as follows. Do I read the Mishnah to say, the first case of the Mishnah is that the animal kicked wildly and a damage with the kicking. That's one case. Or the animal was then kicking pebbles, but this was in the normal fashion. And this is the regular tzreitis. Chatzi nezek for both of these. What's the pay? Half a pay. But from this I could learn out, machmas biut, if the animals would be kicking pebbles, and it kicked pebbles in a wild manner, then the via nezek, then the payment for that would only be a quarter. Because the Mishnah is saying, if it kicked and it directly damaged by the kicking, then you pay half. But if it would be kicking wildly, and then that wild kicking caused the pebble to fly, for that you would not pay chatzi nezek. For that you would pay only a quarter. And then that would mean yesh shinui l'tzreitis. The yesh shinui. Oidil me hoysem ve'etes. Or maybe the way to read the Mishnah is that the animal was kicking wildly, v'hizika b'biyuta, and it damaged with its kicking directly with its feet. Or indirectly it caused wildly a pebble, and that pebble flew and damaged. And for both, the halacha is chatzi nezek, that you only pay chatzi nezek and not less than chatzi nezek. Even though the tzreiris happened with a shinui, it happened by the animal kicking. And there ain't shini, but nevertheless, we don't apply the concept of keren, that you pay half of your usual pay here, and you always pay chatzi nezek for tzreiris, even if it did it in a wild way. That was the source of Rav Ashi's first ibaya before. So Teiku, this ibaya remains unresolved. Another ibaya regarding tzreiris, ibaya minei Rab Abba bar Mamel mirabami v'amrila mirabchie barabba. Another ibaya that was asked regarding tzreiris. Very interesting. The Gemara has so many sfeikus regarding tzreiris. Tzreiris, out of all the types of nezikin, is a halacha l'Moshe Misinai. But then this halacha l'Moshe Misinai is so not clear. It was just given as one general halacha that you pay half for it. But all the variations of how it's possible to happen, there's so many different shilas about this. So what's the shaila about this tzreiris? If the animal is walking in a place, it's impossible for the animal. It's walking on some gravel. It's impossible for it to walk without it kicking out something. But what happened is the animal got wild and it started kicking. And tzreiris flew out and it damaged. So mahu, what do I consider this case to be? Do I say kivin the efshala? Since the animal is walking on a place where it's impossible for it not to kick out pebbles, even if it would walk ordinarily, it would kick out pebbles. So therefore, you're going to be chayiv to pay for this, the halacha of tzreiris in its normal fashion. It's considered to be orchei. Even though this would have happened anyways, but now the fact is the animal did get wild and it started kicking, and therefore the tzreiris that flew out was a result of a wild behavior of the animal. And that's how menatza tzreiris. So this is not the ordinary tzreiris, this is the tzreiris that happened with a shinui, with a change of the animal being wild. So what kind of responsibility does the owner of this animal have? So Rashi over here has two pshatim. What is the relevance of this question? Either the relevance of this question is, if you paskin like what Rav Ashi said, that there is a shinui, that there is a difference between regular tzreiris and a tzreiris that's done by a wild behavior. So then there would be a difference if you pay half or if you pay a quarter. Or the nafkamina would be if you learn like the pshat we had before regarding hadah for tzreiris, when there's a warning of 3 times for tzreiris. If that warning is only relevant for a wild behavior, so then you have to know over here if this was a wild behavior or not. Okay, that's the shaila. Now this is what the Gemara doesn't answer. Teiku remains unresolved. Another shaila the Gemara asks, the animal is walking in a Rishus Harabim, and it kicked out a pebble and it damaged. So this is the regular case of tzreiris. Mahu. What's going to be the halacha when it damages in the Rishus Harabim through tzreiris? Do I say lekeren midaminale? We've compared the halacha of tzreiris, which pays only half, to keren, which also pays only half, and therefore v'chayeves in the Rishus Harabim will be chayev. An animal that damages in Rishus Harabim with its horns, you chayev for that. Or do we say that tzreiris is a tilde of regel? It's walking with its feet and it's kicking, the tzreiris come out, and therefore it's a tilde of regel. What's the halacha by regel? Petura. Regel is patur in Rishus Harabim. The Torah says ubir bizdei acher, that is, that only if it's in a private property, but not under Rishus Harabim. So therefore tzreiris, which is a tilde of regel, would be patur. Amalei, so Rab Zera answered, Mistavra, it's logical to say it, tilde the regel who, that tzreiris is a tilde of regel, and therefore it's going to be potter if it damages in the Rishus Harabim. But now the Gemara, based on this, has another shaila. How about hitiza b'Rishus Harabim? This animal was walking in its regular fashion, the Rishus Harabim, and it kicked out pebbles. And now those pebbles went and flew v'hizika b'Rishus Hayachid. The actual damage took place in someone's private property. So the cause of the damage, the act of the damage begins in the Rishus Harabim, but the actual damage takes place in the Rishus Hayachid. Mahu, what's going to be the halacha here? Are you chayav for the act that happened? Sorry, are you potter, that is, because of the act that began in the Rishus Harabim? Or are you chayav because the actual damage happened in the Rishus Hayachid, and there you chayav for regel? Amalei, so again, Rab Zera answered for this, that Akira Enkan, when it was uprooted, meaning the beginning of the damage, when the animal kicked, you're not responsible for that because it began in the Rishus HaRabim. Hanacha Yeshkan, only when it landed in the Rishus HaYachid, but that's not enough to obligate you. Since it began in the act of the damage happened in the Rishus HaRabim, you'll be potter. So this Gemara asks, the Brisa says a person's the animal that is walking on the way, v'tiza, and it flew out pebbles from under its feet. Whether this happened in Rishus HaYachid or it happened in Rishus HaRabim, chayiv. So over here you see the Brisa clearly says you'd be chayiv. So this is a question on what Rab Zayda said. On the first point that Rab Zayda said that in Rishus HaRabim you'd be potter because it's a tolda of regel. But here it says that you chayiv in the Rishus HaRabim. So my love, don't you think this Brisa is saying he tiza b'Rishus HaRabim? It kicked the pebble in the Rishus HaRabim, v'hizika b'Rishus HaRabim, and the actual damage happened in the Rishus HaRabim. And it says that you would be chayiv. So you must say that we compare tzroides to keren, not as a tolda of regel. Says the Gemara Loi, that's not the pshat of this Brisa. Rather, what happened here is he tiza b'Rishus HaRabim. It kicked the pebble in the Rishus HaRabim, v'hizika b'Rishus HaYachid. It flew and it damaged in the Rishus HaYachid, and therefore you'll be chayiv because the actual damage did happen in the Rishus HaYachid. But on this the Gemara asks, but v'ha'amre, didn't you say before, akira enkan, hanacha yeshkan? Rab Zayda said that even in such a case you would be potter because akira enkan, and the original cause of the damage is in the Rishus HaRabim, and for that you're not going to be chayiv. So yeah, the Gemara says, Rab Zayda said, hadri bi, I retract my opinion, and in such a case you would be chayiv. Right, so the Rishonim over here explained that the original svara was that if the cause of the damage happens in the Rishus HaRabim, what's the svara? Why is regel always potter in the Rishus HaRabim? Why is shem v'regel always potter in the Rishus HaRabim? Because this is something which the owner cannot be responsible for. The animal is, wherever it walks, it tramples and it eats. It's impossible to guard from this. Adarab, someone else that has an object that's his should not keep it out in the street in Rishus HaRabim because he knows animals walk there and they're going to damage it. That was the svara why you potter in Rishus HaRabim. But if the damage, so therefore, if the cause of the damage was in the Rishus HaRabim, so that's something the owner can't be responsible for. The animal is walking and it kicks pebbles, even though the actual damage ended up happening in the Rishus HaYachid, it doesn't matter. It's the animal walking regularly in the Rishus HaRabim. We can't obligate the owner for this. But the Gemara over here says, no, Rab Zayda had charata from that, because the Torah says, ubir bizdei acher, as long as the actual damage of regel, and in this case, tzroides, which is a tolda of regel, took place in the Rishus HaYachid, you will be chayiv. It's considered to be bizdei acher. The damage ended up happening there in the other person's property. The Gemara asks from another case.
You could say don't keep your things up.
Right, so right. The guy, exactly. Mitzad the nizik, exactly. Mitzad the nizik, it's his private property. So if it damaged there, you're going to be responsible for it. Okay, the Gemara now brings a few other things which is going to come to the same conclusion here. Eisvei, the Gemara asks from what it said in our Mishnah. Darsa la keli v'shavrasai, the animal stepped on a keli and it broke it. Then nafal hasheva keli achet, and then this broken keli, a piece of it flew out on a second keli. V'shavre, and it broke it. So what's the halacha? Al arisha mishalom nezek shalim. On the first keli that you broke, you pay full damage. That was a direct damage with the feet. Al achra, and the second one mishalom chatzi nezek. That's tzroides. It only flew out. But now, v'tani Allah, and a brayse we learned about this. When is all this true? So you only pay if it's in the private place, in the rishus of the nizik. If this took place in the rishus harabim, then ala rishayin petura on the first keli you potter, but ala achrain, even in the rishus harabim, for the second keli the damaged chayeves, you are going to be chayev. So for the first one you potter because the first one is regel. So regel and Rishus Harabim is potter, but the achra in the second one is tzroides, and for that you're going to be chayiv in the Rishus Harabim. So my love, don't you think? What does this mean? He teased over Rishus Harabim, v'hizik over Rishus Harabim, that this vessel flew out and it damaged the second vessel. They all took place in the Rishus Harabim. So I see over here that tzroides is chayiv in the Rishus Harabim. Says the Gemara again, no, the same point as we said before. Loi hitiza b'Rishus Harabim, a piece of the first vessel flew out in the Rishus Harabim, v'hizika b'Rishus HaYachid. The actual damage happened in the Rishus HaYachid. But fragt the Gemara, v'amre akira enkan anocha yeshkan. Didn't Rab Zayda say that because the beginning of the damage began in the Rishus Harabim, so you're still going to be potter for this? Amar lei. So Rab Zayda responds over here the same thing. Hadri bi. He told Rabbi Yirmiyah, you're right, I have charata from this. As long as the actual damage happened in the Rishus Harabim, you're going to be chayiv for this. In the Rishus HaYachid, that is, you're going to be chayiv. Another case, the Gemara brings out the same point. But Eini, is this true for what you said, that in the Rishus Harabim, tzroides will be potter like regel, but for Ha'amar Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan said, Ein chatzi nezek, Chaluk, there is no distinction when it comes to the pay. Whenever you pay chatzi nezek, there is no distinction lo l'rishus hayachid v'lo l'rishus harabim. As the same halacha that you pay chatzi nezek in rishus hayachid and in the rishus harabim. So my love, don't you think that this includes as well hitiza b'rishus harabim? This is the pebbles tzreitis when it flew out in the rishus harabim, v'hizika b'rishus harabim, and a damage in the rishus harabim that you pay. You pay for tzreitis in the rishus harabim, not like Rab Zayda said that there is no tzreitis in the rishus harabim because it's a tolda of regel. Says the Gemara, loy, that's not the pshat here. Hitiza b'rishus harabim v'hizika b'rishus hayachid. The case is that the pebbles flew out, but it actually damaged in the rishus hayachid, and that's why you're chayav for this. That's what Rabbi Yochanan was saying. Frag the Gemara again, in such a case, he also said you would be potter. So again, Rab Zayda said, Hadri, I retract of what I said. In such a case, if the actual damage happened in the Rishus HaYachid, you will be chayiv. Or the Gemara says, from Rabbi Yochanan, there's no raya, we could say a different pshat, the whole statement of Rabbi Yochanan was not referring to tzreitis at all. Rabbi Yochanan was talking about keren, which is a whole different case. By keren, chatzi nezek, you pay both in Rishus HaYachid and the Rishus HaRabim. Sagt the Gemara weiter, Yosef Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya and Rabbi Shia was sitting Akilo the Rabbi Yehuda by the entranceway into the house of Rabbi Yehuda. Nafik Milsim Ibinayu, so a subject came out between them that they were discussing, a halacha, and that is Kishkisha Biznava Mahu, an animal that's walking the Rishus HaRabim and it's swinging its tail, and the tail damages. So what's the halacha of this kind of a damage? Is this considered to be something that's usual or unusual? Amalei Idach. So the other told him, whichever one was asking of you, the other one answered and said, when a person is walking with his animal in the Rishus HaRabim, could he hold its tail and walk with it this way? So in other words, this is something that the owner is not responsible for, just like regel. When it tramples with its feet, you potter in the Rishus HaRabim. When it swings its tail, you also potter. So he asked him back, but if the animal damages with its horns, you should argue the same thing. Name it, we should say, could you hold the horns of the animals and walk with it? So you should be potter when it damages with its horns in the Rishus HaRabim as well. So he said, no, how could you compare? There's no comparison. Keren lavorchehu. Lavorche, that is. Keren, when it damages with its horn, this is not a usual thing. This is only when the animal gets wild. So only when it gets wild will you have to watch it. But otherwise, you're not going to have to hold the horns of the animal all the time. But over here, when the animal swings its tail, that's something which is usual. So you can't be mechayivim for this. So the Gemara asks, so if in fact that animal swinging its tail is the same as trampling with its feet, and therefore you would be potter, so maimi boyale. So what was even the holy boy that was asked over here? What was this discussion? And says the Gemara, kishkush yisayre mi boyale. The discussion was, yeah, the animal does swing its tail to some extent. But the question is, if you see the animal is swinging its tail more than usual, so do I say that I compare this to keren, which is unusual? It's a tailda of keren in such a case? Or do I say, no, it's still a tailda of regel, and therefore you're going to be potter? And that was the shaila over here. And the conclusion is that even the kishkush yisayre, the extra swinging of the tail, you're still going to be potter for that in the Rishus HaRabim. A similar shaila Gemara asks, if the animal is swinging its male member in the Rishus HaRabim and it causes a damage, what halacha will there be over here? Do I say midi dahava keren? This is similar to when it damages with its horn. Why? Because keren, when an animal damages with its horn, what happened over here? Lav yitzar katokifle. Isn't it because the inclination, it got hold of the animal and therefore it's acting wild? So hachanami here as well by the amasa loishna. It's no different over here. It only does that if it has some inclination inside of it that causes it to do it. So it's considered to be something which is unusual. So you only chayiv chatzi nezek similar to keren, and you'll be chayiv in the Rishus HaRabim. Or maybe it's not the same thing, because keren, there's an additional thing about keren. Kavanasei lahazik. It's not only that it has some inclination to cause it to do this, but it actually has an intention to damage. And then you say, oh, this is very unusual, and you pay chatzi nezek in the Rishus HaRabim. But en kavanasei lahazik over here regarding this organ when it swings it, it's not with a kavanah to be mazik. And therefore over here, even though it's not as usual as trampling with its feet, but you would still, you're not going to be chayiv for this like keren, and you'll be potter under the Rishus HaRabim. Teiko, this also remains unresolved. Going back what it said in the Mishnah, the Tarnagoyim, the chickens, they walk on their way and they break. And then the Mishnah over there said, what happens if there was this, what was the lashon of the Mishnah? You had a delil, you had a string that tied to the to the feet of the chicken and it damaged with this. So you would be chayiv. So right now the Gemara thinks that the reason you would be chayiv for this is that the string, as the chicken was walking, damaged, and this is similar to the damage of boyer. That's something in Rishus Harabim that damages. Let's see how the Gemara explains this. So Rav Huna said about the string that's attached to the feet of the chicken. That the only time you'll be chayiv, the owner of the chicken, that is, will be chayiv, is if the string got tied to the chicken on its own. It just got tangled into the feet of the chicken. If there's somebody that went and tied it to the feet of the chicken, then chayiv. So then he's going to be chayiv. So the Gemara asks, what's going on over here? What's the case here? Niksha me'elov man chayiv. When it says over here that this string got tied to the foot of the chicken, who's going to be chayiv? When Rav Huna was saying over here that he'll be chayiv, who's going to be chayiv for this? If Rav Huna was trying to say that the owner of the string is the one that's going to be chayiv, well, why is he going to be chayiv for this when it got attached on its own? If the case over here is that the string was hidden in a private, in a place that the chicken shouldn't have gone there, so then honestly, the fact that it got entangled into the feet of the chicken, why should the owner of the string be responsible for this? He put away his string in a good place; it was hidden. If he left the string somewhere in the Rishus Harabim in a place that it ended up getting tangled into the feet of the chicken, so then Peshayahu. So then this is a negligence for leaving this string over here in the street, and therefore it got tangled into the feet of the chicken. So then he's a Peshaya and he should be chayiv. So it's his fault. Elo, what is it talking about over here? Chayiv bal tarnagel. Who's the one that's chayiv over here? The owner of the chicken is the one that should be chayiv. Right, but the question though is, in such a case, what did it say in our Mishnah? That if it's nikshar me'elov, in the Mishnah it said that in such a case you only pay chatzi nezek, right? That's the main problem the Gemara has over here. That why is the Mishnah saying that in such a case you pay only half a damage? So as the Gemara just finished explaining, if we're being mechayev, the owner of the string, so then memanavshach. Either it's a negligence and he should pay full pay, and if he hit it and there's no negligence, he should be totally potter. So elo chayev bal tarnagel. So over here, when the string got tied to the chicken's feet, it's the owner of the chicken that's chayev. But the question still remains: why only half? Ma'ishna kuli nezek deloy. Why is he not chayev to pay a full damage for the string that got tied to the chicken's feet? And the reason is because the chsiv, the pasuk says regarding someone that gets damaged in your pit, ki yiftach ishpar. If you open up a pit and a person falls inside the pit, then you're going to be chayav. But v'loy sherbar, if your ox gets tangled and causes then to there be a stumbling that is now on the feet of this shire, you're not chayav for that. If the shire digs a bar, that you're not chayav for. And that's basically what's happening over here. Because this chicken of yours, its feet is getting tangled into a dlil, and then that string is causing a stumbling. It's causing damage. But it's the chicken that's causing the stumbling. And therefore you're going to be potter for this. So chatzi nezek nami, so half a pay should also be potter. Why you pay half? Ishbar v'lo only if a person digs a pit or creates a stumbling block, chayev, but not the chicken that has a string that's tied to its feet. You're not chayev for that. So therefore, the Gemara says we got the pshat in the Mishnah completely wrong. That's not the pshat in the Mishnah. Ella, rather, what's the pshat in our Mishnah when it says that the chicken had this string on its feet and then it damaged, that you only pay half a damage? What's the case? Masnisim ba'adya aduye. The Mishnah over here is talking about a case that the chicken, which had a string on its feet, the string flew off the chicken's feet and it caused the damage. And for that you pay chatzi nezek. And what is this? This is the halach of tzreiris. This is another example of tzreiris where the chicken did not damage directly with its feet. It damaged with a string that flew off its feet and it caused the damage. That's exactly what tzreiris is. That's what a Mishnah is talking about. Now the Gemara comes back to what Rav Huna said before. Rav Huna said that there's a distinction if it got entangled into the chicken's feet or it happened by someone tying it to the chicken's feet. Where did Rav Huna make this distinction? When Rav Huna made this distinction, he wasn't talking about our Mishnah, because our Mishnah says chatzi nezek. Our Mishnah is talking about tzreiris. Rav Huna said it somewhere else. Rav Huna said this halacha b'chlal himself, and he said as follows: Delil hefker. If you have a string that's in the street, which someone left it there, and it's hefker. So Rav Huna said, Niksha me'elov, if it got attached to the feet of an animal or of a chicken, then potter. You're going to be potter for this. Why? As we said before, because a boir that happens through your animal, that the animal got entangled in it, and then it's walking around and it's causing damage, a boir that comes from a shoir, or in this case from a chicken, you potter for that. But kashrei adam, if the person went and tied it to the feet of his chicken, so the person created the stumbling, he tied it to the feet of the chicken, and then it walks around and damages, chayiv, you're going to be chayiv. Mishumai chayiv. Why is the person chayiv for this? Amar Avuna bar Menoyach mishum boiroi hamizgalgal. You chayiv for this. This is you attach this bendel, this string to the chicken's feet. It's like a boir that rolls. If you remember, we had earlier in the Masechta, if a person places a stumbling block in the Rishus HaRabim, that stumbling block rolls to another place, the person that originally placed it there, even though it rolled to another place, you'll be chayiv. The same thing over here. You tie a string to the chicken's feet, and then it walked to another place, you'll be chayiv. You put it down in one place, and the person pushes it down the street, you're going to be chayiv for this. So therefore, over here, this is a bayram misgalgal, and the owner, the person that tied it, will be chayiv. Okay, let's learn a little bit further here. The next Mishnah. This is the Mishnah that talks about the damage of shame. Sagt the Heilige Mishnah, Keitzad Hashem Mu'edes. When is a shame mu'ed that we know that it's usual for it to eat and damage? Lechol esaroyla, to eat what's fit for it. HaBehema Mu'edes lechol. The behema is a mu'ed. It's usual for it to eat. They eat peiris, v'yerakis, fruits and vegetables. These are things that are edibles for the animal, and this is what you chayav for. However, ochlok susei kelim, if the animal eats any kinds of garments or vessels, so then the animal is wild and it's eating things that are not even fit for it to eat. Mishalom chatzi nezek, it only pays half. It's a toiled of keren. When do you pay for the damage of shane? Only if it's in the property of the nizek. But if it's in the Rishus HaRabim, you potter, because the Torah says a beer b'zdei ach, it has to be in his property. Now, the Mishnah though says, even though in the Rishus HaRabim you potter for the damage of shame, but v'im nenis, when the animal is eating there and it derives benefit, mishalemes mashanenes. You don't have to pay for the full damage, but there is still another form of payment, which is payment for the hana that it had, which the Gemara will explain exactly what the payment of this hana is. Now, Keitzad, when do you make this distinction? When does it pay full damage, and when does it only pay for the hana? So Keitzad Mishalemes Mashanenes, Ochlo Mitoicha Rochba, if the animal eats from the middle of the Rishus HaRabim, so then over there it's potter to pay for the full damage, but Mishalemes Mashanenes, but you do have to pay for the Hana. Mitzidei Rochba, if it's eating from the side of the Rishus HaRabim, that's not normal for the animal to do, so that's already a tilde of Keren, Mishalemes Mashizika. It's going to pay half, but it pays the damage of what it damaged. Similar, mi pesach hachanos, if the animal eats from what's at the door of a store, what's put out in front, outside the store, so over there, that's in the Rishus HaRabim, Mishalemes Mashanenes. It only pays for the hana, not for the full damage. Mi toich hachanos, if it damaged inside the store, Mishalemes Mashezika. Over there, it already went inside the store, so over there, it has to pay full damage for that. Toner Rabbanan and a brayse to be learned.
She pays only once, or this.
Yeah, either hana or the full damage, correct. Taner Rabbanan, we learned in the brayse, Hashem uedes lechol esaroyla, the animal that eats, it's usual for it to eat what is fit for it. Keitzad beimish nichnas lo chatzara nizik. It entered into the private property of the nizik. Va'achla oichlin aruyin lo. It ate food that's edible for it. V'shasa samashkin aruyin lo, or it drank what's fit for it. Mishalim nezik shalim. It pays full damage. V'chein chayish nichnas lo chatzara nizik. A wild beast that enters into the property of a nizik, and v'tarfa, and it went and tore apart behema, another animal, va'achla basar, and it ate the meat. Mishalim nezik shalim. That's usual for this animal to do. It's a wild beast, so therefore you pay nezek shalim for this as well. Now, another thing here, the Braisa says, even if the animal eats edibles, certain foods that are not so usual for it, you still pay for that. Para sha'achla sayrin, a cow that eats barley. Now, barley is not the food for a cow, it's the food for a donkey. But if it's very hungry, it's going to eat barley as well. Or chamar sha'achla kashinin, or a donkey that ate kashinin, which is some kind of some kind of seeds, whatever it is. It's also not the usual food for the donkey, but if it's hungry, it'll eat it. Or v'kelav shalikek esashemen, a dog that is licking from oil, also not so usual for it, but still, if it's hungry, it eats it. Or v'chazde sha'achla achal chaticha shal basar, or the chazde that ate a piece of meat, mishalmen nezek shalim. In all of these cases, it pays nezek shalim, and the chiddush over here is that al yedei atchak, if it's very hungry, it will eat these things. So Rav Papa said based on this, Hashta da Amrit, now that you said, Kol midi de lav orchei, even something which is not always its regular food that it eats, but va'achla lei al yedei atchak, but if it's very hungry, it'll eat it. Shmei achila, this is considered to be a regular edible food for it, and you have to pay for shein nezek shalem. So if so, hai shonera, a cat, the achal tamri that ate dates, also not so usual for it, or v'chamra, a donkey, the ochel binisa that ate fish, Mishalem nezek shalim. It'll pay full pay because b'shas atchak, if it's hungry, it will eat these things.